6 ways that people fail when they buy their first home. Now, number 1 is their current housing payment is too low, meaning why the hell would you buy? If you're paying 0 rent because you're living in a family home that completely works for you and will for a very long time, why would you buy a primary residence? Because your monthly payment is going to be a lot more than 0. And I know that sounds silly, but there are plenty of people who come to me and they say, Drew, we'd like to buy a house. And we run through the numbers and we compare it to their rent. It doesn't make a lot of sense. Now, that said, a lot of times what you're paying in rent and what you're going to be paying in your mortgage is going to be higher because you're buying a bigger home. You're usually taking a step up. But when you factor everything in, it usually makes a ton of sense to buy because there's appreciation, there's tax benefits. Your rent will continue to go up, and usually your mortgage payment is going to be the worst case scenario at the very beginning because in future years you can refi and lower those monthly payments. You can get rid of your mortgage insurance. You can do a lot of things for that. Number 2, this is going to sound simple, but I promise you a lot of people get this wrong. Don't buy if the monthly payment isn't affordable. And at the end of the day, it's you who's going to be making monthly payment. Now, there are a lot of things that lenders do not consider when they qualify you for a mortgage. So for instance, they're not going to take into consideration your tax bracket. They're not going to take into consideration the amount of kids you have and whether you send them to private school, daycare, preschool, what have you. They're not going to take into consideration if you have a very high spending habit with fast food, with clothes, with any of those things. We're going to look at what's on your credit report. We're going to look at your house payment. We're going to come up with a calculation based on those things, and those 2 things typically alone, with some exceptions, of course. Make sure that you feel comfortable with the monthly payments. Please do consider the tax benefits because those do help you, and they can help you with your monthly payment. Number 3, if you spend all your money on the house and you move in and you can't even buy furniture, you can't even buy appliances, and if your car breaks down or little Timmy goes to the hospital, that could be a problem. So make sure you have some money left over. Don't spend it all. Number 4, don't buy a house if this is going to be short-term. Short-term meaning not 5 to 10 years, but 1 to 2 years. Because if you're going to not keep this house long-term, then the likelihood of something coming up and it not being a great investment becomes much, much higher. But if you're looking to buy a primary residence, you want to really plan on staying there 5 to 10 years. You can always buy something and change earlier. You can always convert it into a rental property earlier. But the longer you hold real estate, 9 times out of 10, the better you're going to do. And number 5, your job is unstable. If your job, the thing that you use to make money and pay for the mortgage, is unstable, then just wait. Wait until it's more stable. Because if something happens and you don't have a job and you can't get another job for a long time, that's going to be very, very detrimental to your financial health. So make sure that your job is stable and that if you were to lose your job, you could obtain a new one relatively easily. And number 6, this pisses me off more than anything else. People disqualify themselves before they ever ask the question. So instead of saying, no, you know what, I'll never be able to buy, I'm just not going to bother, ask the question. A reputable lender will not only tell you what you qualify for today, if you want to build a blueprint for the future to buy that dream home or your first home years later, that's fine too. It doesn't cost you anything, by the way. Most lenders will not charge you anything. So ask the questions. You may not get all the answers right away, but if you ask those questions, you're going to get closer to that eventual goal of buying the right house for you. Now, those are 6 ways that you could fail when buying your house. There's lots of ways that you could win. But what did I leave out that you think are other reasons why people might fail buying their first house?